Hello everyone. The Twinmotion webinar will begin in just about 5 minutes. Make sure to maximize your viewer for the best experience, and you can use the Control plus and Control minus keys to zoom in and out if need be. See y'all soon. The webinar will begin in just about a minute. For the best viewing experience, make sure to maximize your browser. You can also use the plus and minus keys to Control plus and Control minus keys to zoom in and out. See y'all soon. Cheers.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for this webinar around Twinmotion 2020. Just want to quickly thank Daryl for the introduction. At the end of this webinar, we'll have a Q&A session, so if you have questions during the presentation, keep them in mind and we will answer all of them at the end. So my name is Martin. I've been working on Twinmotion for more than 7 years now. I will be your host today. The idea of this webinar will be to just give you a quick tour of everything that is new inside this new version of Twinmotion. So actually, let's get started. So first off, with Twinmotion 2023, we did a lot of work on the vegetation. So I will open my library and enter the vegetation and landscape folder. First, in the bush folder, we have been replacing all our previous bushes assets by Quixel Megascan assets. So now we have highly detailed models. So, for example, here, if I start to come up close, you can really see the details on the texture. It's really better quality compared to what we had in the past. So all our bushes here has been replaced by all those really great, really highly detailed assets. After the bushes, we also have completely reworked all our trees. So if I come to the tree folder, all our tree here has been completely reworked. And all our tree exists in 3 ages. For example, here, if you look at the bigger preview on the right over here, you can see the adult size, medium size, and young size of each tree. That means that each tree exists in 3 different ages. For example, if I drag and drop this Norwest spruce here, by default, it's set to an age of 50%. So let me raise the age of this one and lower the age of this one. As you can see here, it's really the shape that changes. It's not just a basic scale on the geometry itself. So for each tree species that we have inside the library, now each species exists in 3 different shapes and size. And why does that matter? We'll see that in a moment. So let me just come back over here. Can raise a bit the age of this one, something like that. Also, all our tree, it's not just tree with 3 different ages. We also have raised the quality of the trees. For example, if I come up close to this one here, you can really see the enhanced texture quality that we have here. We even have some subsurface scattering effect on the foliage. And also all the wind effect has been reworked on the vegetation to have a much more believable effect. After that, we have reworked the tool to add vegetation. So I will come to the context doc, vegetation paint. Here we'll start to paint some vegetation, like for example the wild grass. We'll select my paint tool, and here I can start to paint my grass on my terrain. So first, as you can see, the grass disappears when it's far from the camera. It's an optimization setting that you can find over here in the burger menu, preferences, fading of grass. By default, I think it's set to near. Here I just switch it to far. Let me just switch to near so you can see the difference. So it's really an optimization feature to gain performances while inside the viewport. So basically it cuts the geometry, and since usually you have a lot of grasses, it can quickly drain the performances of the machine. But it's only in the viewport that this grass will be removed from the display. At the export, you will see the grass even if you paint it up top on the hill over there. So here there is not enough grass, so I will select my grass and change the density after I've painted the layer. So this is something new in this new version of Twinmotion, so you can edit a layer even after you painted it. So now this layer exists. It's not just, let me just add more grass like here. It's not, like, for example, here I've defined an area, I've defined a layer, and now I can keep adding object to this layer. So for example here I can add this tall grass, and this tall grass will be automatically scattered on all my layer. I don't need to select my paint tool and paint again this new tall grass. And now that this layer exists, I can keep adding object to these layers. For example here I can add some flowers, a bit too much. So for example these flowers here I can just lower to something like 5%, maybe 1, 2. Let's keep adding some objects. I can switch to the bush folder and add, for example, some of the bushes, maybe too much. Just going to change the density, a few of these. And we can even add some trees. So for example, here I will add my Norwest spruce. You can even add the same tree multiple times. So for example, I will add the Norway spruce 3 times. And something that is also new with this new paint tool is that you can enter the selection dock while inside this Dropbox. So for example, this Norway spruce here, I can enter the settings of this specific tree. So if I click here, I have the selection dock of this tree. That means that one of the tree I can switch to an adult age, for example. And the second one I can switch to a younger age. And of course, I can change the density of all of them. I want less young trees, so I will just select this one and switch it to 5, maybe 10%. I will raise the density of the adult age and raise a bit the density of the medium age. And here I've created a quick forest really easily and really quickly. Also, this new layer system now exists in the scene organizer, like you can see here. It's the layer system, and you can turn on and off this object. And of course, you can create multiple variations of your landscaping. You can have this forest, and you can create a new layer with another organization, with another type of vegetation, and you can switch from one to another with the phasing tool. So if I want to add tree on all my terrain, I can use this paint tool like that, but in Twinmotion 2020 we also added a new option, which is the scatter tool. So let me close that. In the scatter tool you have a small phrase that tells you what to do, so drop object over here. So I'm just going to drop a few objects here. I will select all of them. And here, with my bucket, I will just click on my bucket and click one time on my terrain, and it will scatter all the objects in my Dropbox on all my terrain. If I want to add more density, I will just keep clicking until I have the density I want. So this is the new scatter tool. It works for the tree like that, but it can also work for grasses. So just before I showed you that all our trees exist in 3 different ages. Why does that matter? It's because here in the weather dock we added a new option, which is the growth option. This growth option allows you to visualize the project at delivery, like here, but you can also visualize the look of the vegetation around the project across multiple years. So if I start to raise the growth option, you can see that the tree will grow, and you can really see the evolution of the vegetation around your project across multiple years. Next thing is the lighting. With Twinmotion 2020, we did a lot of work on the lighting. So first, now we have some auto exposure. That means that, let me just come, for example, over here. When the camera is in a dark place, it automatically adjusts the brightness of the camera. And if I come to an area that is not in the shadow, like here, the camera will automatically adjust. It's the auto exposure. You can play, if you are creating a camera and you want to have your image more dark, you can play with the exposure control in the settings lighting dock. With this new version also, all the lights has been reworked using real world value. And what does that mean? That means that if I drag a spotlight, like in real life, during daytime, you won't be able to see the light. Even if I start to raise the intensity of the light, it will quickly be almost invisible. If you want to override this value, you can manually type a value to override this slider. So for example, here, the max value of the slider is 10,000, but you can manually type up to 1 million lumen. So it's not a light that will exist in real world, but it's something that you can fake directly by typing manually the value you want. Next thing, in Twinmotion 2020, we added a new light type. So let me come over here. Actually, in the interior of my project over here, I will use an area light. So we'll just drop it on my roof over here. And here, this new area light, as you can see, we have a few options like the length and the width. So I think the project is like 15 by 15 meters. I will just place the area light in the middle of my roof. And now I will just come on the inside and I will raise the intensity of the light. And same thing here, I just use the override value by manually typing the value I want. So here, it's just the new light source in an area light that enlight a whole area using a square geometry. So here is a quick way to enlight really large floor. Next thing is the volumetric lighting. To do that, I've set up some images on my project. So let me switch to this first image over here. First way to visualize volumetric lighting will be to use the fog. So we'll come to the more of this specific image, enter the weather dock. In the effects, here we have the smog. If I start to raise this value here, you can start to see the ray, the God ray, through the leaves on my vegetation here. And here it's just using the smog, but you can also use you can also use two different types of light directly inside Twinmotion, which is the omnidirectional and the spotlight. And those two lights now have a haze option. What the haze do, it basically enable particles floating in the air within the radius of the light. So for example, if I turn this on, as you can see, we have now like a smog, a fog effect, but just in the radius of 5 meters. So first what I will do is just lower the intensity of the haze and raise the radius. Maybe it's even too much density, so we'll come back to my mirror and switch maybe to like 5%. And here I just added even more fog to my scene. Let me switch to another image. In this point of view, it's the same point of view actually, but during nighttime. And here I use also the omnidirectional light with this haze option turned on. You can also use directly a spotlight to visualize the effect of the volumetric lighting. After the volumetric lighting, we have done work on the enhancement of the glow. So let me switch to this night scene over here. As you may see here, we have a small sphere on my ground in my corridor. So I will use my material picker. I will select my sphere, and here I will just raise the glow of this object. As you can see now, the object, the glow material, emits real light. So for example, if I start to drag my sphere around my project, you can see that it affects the surrounding geometry. You can visualize that with my sphere over here, but it's an object that is only, it's an effect, sorry, that is only screen space. That means that if my sphere is not in my viewport, you won't be able to see the effect. For example, here, if I start to move my camera over here, as soon as my sphere disappears from the screen, I don't see the effect of the light. So it's really an effect that is only present when the object is in the viewport. So here I will just show you the same thing with my light on my ceiling. Here, if I erase this, I can start to visualize, to add some light to my project. And it also works with video materials, which is something also new in this new version of Twinmotion. So if I come to the materials folder, if I scroll down to the video, here we just drag and drop this video material and raise, not the delay, raise the glow. Something a bit lighter. As you can see, the glow is enlightening also the wall in front and the floor and the ceiling. And since it's a video, you can see that this glow will be animated, it will change color. So this effect, you can visualize that because it's through the SSGI, the Screen Space Global Illumination, which is also something new in this new version of Twinmotion. So to show you that, let me switch to this scene. To compare to Twinmotion 2019, we'll come to the more over here, and in the lighting we have the GI option. If I turn this option off, this is basically what we had in Twinmotion 2019. And with the new screen space global animation, this is the kind of effect that we have. You can see the red color that is bleeding on the wall, same as over here. And for example, if I pick this material over here and if I apply it to my floor, you can really see the color bouncing all over the place. And now I can even change the color and you can see how it affects the lighting of all my scene. After the SSGI, we've done some work on the project review. So let me come over here and let me actually come under my project. Here we have some pipes and vents and electric wire. So in Twinmotion 2020, we added a new option on the material. So if I use my material picker and click on this geometry over here, I will come to the settings. Here we have a new option called X-ray. If I turn this option on, now I can visualize this object on top of everything. Same thing for the other one. I will just use my material picker, click on this geometry, I will enable X-ray, and by clicking on a more, I can also customize my color. So for example, this one, I want it green. And it's a way that you can visualize the pipes, the vents around your project, where they are going in your ceiling, under your roof, for example. And now those objects have this X-ray material. If I want to remove that, I can enter my scene organizer. Let me just close this folder over here. And here I have my folder MEP, and I can turn this folder on and off if I want. Next thing is the node tool. So let me come, for example, over here. One of the new features of Twinmotion for making project review is the new node tool. You can find that in the library in the tools folder, node. The node tool, it's just a basic drag and drop from the library to the viewport. Once my node is here, I have a few options to customize my node, like changing the size, the alignment of the text. You can change the color if the note is facing always the camera. You can add the title and a description. So for example, when you are making a project review with your client, you can just, if you see some problem with the project, you can just add a few notes like change the material over here, fix the geometry here, or the ceiling, have a hole over here, fix that. And once you have all your notes placed inside your project, if you click on the burger menu over here, we added a new option, which is the export BCF file. That means that you can export those notes back to Revit or back to ArchiCAD, and in your CAD software, you will retrieve the title, the description, and you will also retrieve the thumbnail of the note, so you can visualize quickly where was the problem in your model and fix them while in your CAD software. Next thing, we've done some work on the material. So I've already shown you the video material, which is something new. If I just come back really quickly here, this video material you can find inside the library at the bottom inside the video folder. Once you added this video to a material, you can also customize the texture, so you can load your own video by clicking on the open tab over here. Next thing, we added some frosted glass material. So just jumping to this point of view, I will enter the glass folder, and here we have a new frosted glass material option. And on here we have a few options in the dock of, as always, just to customize the look of the materials. But this is the new frosted glass material. Next thing, we added an option to stretch a texture. So let me come, for example, to this point of view here. Right now I have this texture, but if I want, for example, my scale to be like square, for example, in the scale, so first I selected my material as always using my material picker. Under my scale option, I will click on the mirror, I will enter the axis option, and here we added two new options, stretch on X and stretch on Y. And now I can use this option to stretch the material on one specific axis. So for example, here I've made my scale, my plate almost square, but I can also, scale it in any direction, of course. Finally, one of the last options we added on the materials is the grunge option. So for example, here, if I pick my material on my ground, if I enter the more of the color option, we have this new grunge option. It just adds a bit of noise to the texture to break up the repetition a bit. So for example, here you can see that this green is repeating a bit. So if I start to raise the grunge option, it will break down a bit this repetition. So it's just to add more variation. So for example, same here on my parking lot, I can click over here and just raise the grunge to add more variation to the material itself. Next thing is the character. So same thing here, I will come back to my list of media. And here basically what I did is just create different point of view around my project just to switch from the different features I wanted to present. So here I'm just going to switch to my characters image over here. And actually I will remove my note, don't need that anymore. So with this new version of Twinmotion, we have completely reworked all the characters that we have inside Twinmotion. So first off, it starts with the animated characters. So all our characters has been replaced by photo scan data. So if I drag and drop a couple of them here, and if I come a bit closer, you can see that now the characters is much more believable. The quality has been enhanced. Same thing for the animation. We now are using motion capture for all of our animation, so it's much more believable. It's not animation created by hand by our own animator. So we wanted to raise the quality over here. We added also new types of animation, and among those new type of animation we added at the bottom here the walking animation. So of course it's not meant to be used as static like that. It's because in Twinmotion 2020 one of the new options that we have added is the ability to add characters on the custom path. So for example over here, if I enter my path, custom path, here I will just really quickly create let's create a path that is going through my project. Just going to remove this guy out of the way. So I created this custom path. By default, this custom path have a box inside it. Also, by the way, a new way to select your custom path, instead of selecting it by the send graph or by clicking on the orange dot, you can directly click on the shape and it will select the path. So here we have a few options. What I will do is just switch the speed to 3 kilometers, remove the delay, and I will just drag and drop one of our characters from the library into this Dropbox. And if I click on this character, I'm entering the selection dock of this character. And here I will just switch from the idle state to the walking animation. And now I have my character that is animated, that is walking along my path. I can even select it back and change the type of animation. So maybe it's walking this way, maybe it's walking while falling. So it's a way, be careful about that, just moving my point so it doesn't enter the building itself. So yeah, with these changes you can a bit more set up the path the way you want, so it's not randomized, so you can just create one character and have this specific character walking in the way you want, at the place you want inside your project. So next thing, after those characters that are animated, we have added some ready posed characters, which is the one that is over here right now. We added more than 80 of them, so it's just really highly detailed 3D model, which are just in pose, but which definitely enhance the quality. So for example here, if I have a closer look, you can see the details of the texture, which really improve the quality of any renderings that you will be creating, especially images. Finally, we have done some work on the media. So let me come to the media section, video. We have simplified the way you create an animation inside Twinmotion. So I will first click on the create video. This creates a first keyframe. If I want to create a second keyframe, if I want this video to be animated, I will just follow the text over here. I will just move my camera and click on this small plus to create a second keyframe. Pretty simple. Now if I want to create a second part, a second clip, I will click on this plus over here. So let me just move my camera a bit, something like that, to have a wider shot. I will click on this new plus button. Same thing here, just clicking, creating two keyframes. And now I have two different parts, two different clips, and they are all together inside the same video. So we just wanted to simplify the way you create a video inside Twinmotion. You don't need to go anymore in two different docs and create in one place and edit in a second place. Here you are creating your shot in the same place, you are putting them together. You can collapse that, you can change the time, you can change the transition. Actually, for every block of new features inside Twinmotion 2020, we have created tutorials dedicated. So we have one for the media, one for the vegetation, we have one for the project review, and we have two more that will come around the presenter and the lighting. So if you want to learn more about those specific new features, don't hesitate to check that on our YouTube channel. So after this improved video creation doc, we have a bit reorganized all the options that you have inside Twinmotion. So basically now what we have is that we have a context doc. Here is all the tools that allow you to edit your project, like adding people, adding vegetation, adding some context around your project. And then we have the settings, which is specific to your camera. So for example, here, this is locked because I am in an image. If I want to change the settings, here of this specific part, I need to go over here in the settings over here. And here is the settings of this specific media. So I just wanted So we just wanted to put together the option that is locked inside the media compared to the option that is general to the overall project. Then we have made some changes on the depth of field. So if I come over here, let's just put those two guys in front of each other, for example, something like that. Here I will click on the plus to create a new part. In this part I will come to the more, camera, just going to change the focal, and here I wanted to show you the new depth of field. When you turn that on, first the most important thing of this new tool is this autofocus tool here. So basically you click on that and you just click on the image on the point you want your image to be in focus. Like here I'm clicking on this guy, so it in focus. I can focus on the ear of this guy over here or on my project on the background. So it's just an easier way to set the point of your image which is in focus. We'll have a tutorial regarding all of that as well, but just wanted to quickly introduce to the new depth of field tool, which definitely raised the quality of any images. The old depth that we had was a bit blurry. Now we use real camera settings for all the depth of field effect that we have here. Also on this new camera, we reworked, we added a new option to customize the lens flare. So let's create a new shot over here. I will actually remove the depth of field from this view. And here we added a new option, which is the lens flare option. So if I raise this, you can see this flare effect that is present inside the camera. So it's also something new. Also, by the way, you are looking at the sunset over here. It's also something new with this new version of Twinmotion. We completely reworked the sky. So now we are using a physical sky, which have a real value. So let me first have a camera which is a bit of a larger focal. And here we'll come to the lighting, not the lighting, the location dock. So now our sky model is much more accurate compared to what we had in the past. The position is still the same. That means that you can really make some sun study with Twinmotion. It's just the color that you have, especially at sunset, will be much more close to what we can expect in the reality. Same as the color of the sky and the color the sun produces inside the project. Next thing regarding the media is, if I come over here back to the media, we have a new option, which is the presenter. We'll have tutorials dedicated to that, but a quick presentation will be, we'll remove the old BeamMotion file to replace it by the new presenter. The presenter is a standalone .exe file on PC. It's I think a .app on Mac. So it's a standalone viewer of your project that doesn't require Twinmotion to run. It's an application that you can send to your client so you can visualize this project. You can basically define a story inside Twinmotion when you create your presenter. So here, for example, you can add some slide. You can see that a bit like a PowerPoint on steroids. So you can add your slide in the order you want, and then your viewer, your client will be able to follow the presentation you have set up just by clicking on the slide while in full screen mode without all the editing tools that you have inside Twinmotion. So as I said, we'll have a tutorials dedicated to that. So if you want to learn more, check out our YouTube channel. Finally, a few new stuff. First off, we have a new direct link with Rhino. So I can't show you that in this project, which was created in Revit and 3ds Max. But yes, if you are using Rhino, we now have a direct link with Rhino. We added a new option to customize decals. So let me maybe come in, maybe in this sort over here. If I come to my object folder decals, if I drag and drop this decal on my, let's drag in on my wall here. Now we added a new option here, which is the first option over here. If I come over here and come to my desktop webinar, you can customize the texture that is called inside your decal. So here I just changed the texture to the new Twinmotion logo. So you can just, you can add your own logo, you can add your own texture. Best format for that is PNG without background. So it will automatically retrieve the alpha channel like I did here. Same thing for the cutout that we have in the character library cutout. The cutout is just a plane with the texture of here to girl that is following the position of the camera. And you can now customize the texture that is called over here. So I can click on the more texture. Same process here. I just select the texture over here. And right now it's a bit stretched. So I can just here by clicking and holding the mouse, I can switch to the scale tool. I can just rescale my billboard, my cutout. So yeah, new option, you can also customize the billboard, the characters billboard that we have inside Twinmotion. And I think that's almost it. Just one tiny option that we added in the preference dock here is the VSync option. So it's an option to synchronize the internal frame rate of Twinmotion with the screen refresh rate. So it's a new option, a bit technical, but it's there. And we also added a new dynamic resolution option. How can I explain that? It's an option to dynamically adapt the viewport resolution to always have a good frame rate. So, sorry, if you don't have a really good machine, you can turn this option on, and if you start to go below 25 frames per second while navigating inside the viewport, the resolution of the viewport will dynamically adapt to always stay at 25 frame per second. So yeah, it's just an optimization option to navigate easily and comfortably inside your scene. And finally, the last changes that we did is in the export doc. It's really a tiny thing, but now we added this window that allows you to visualize the image you are going to export. So previously it was just a text list. Now it's a list with the thumbnail, so it's easier to know what you are exporting. And I think that's it for this quick presentation of Twinmotion 2020. Think we are going to switch to the Q&A. I see that there is plenty of questions. And yeah, now if you have some questions, feel free to ask them. And yeah, thanks for those who don't have questions that will leave now. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so thank you so much, Martin, for that amazing presentation, Twinmotion 2020. Looking really, really good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So I'm gonna have both Matt and Martin jump in and start being part of the conversation here. We've got several questions that have come in through the chat that we'd like to kind of go through, and you guys can obviously continue to ask questions in the chat. Matt and Martin, are you guys online?
Yeah, ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So the first question, basically someone's asking, are there other areas to go learn more about Twinmotion? So maybe Matt or Martin could answer that one.
Well, I know Martin's putting out some great tutorials, and then there is a course on Twinmotion 2019 that's on the free Unreal Learning website. Just keep in mind that some things have changed since that course came out. It's about a 2-hour course and goes through a lot of Twinmotion. Just do a search for Twinmotion on the Unreal Learning site. But like I said, keep in mind a lot of things have changed since then, so you can get a lot of benefit from it, but some things are going to be different.
Okay. Yeah, and I posted the link in the chat panel. And yeah, as Matt said, we have some tutorials on Twinmotion 2020 right now. We have, I think, 3 tutorials available, and we have 2 upcoming ones. So if you want to have a look at that, it's on the Twinmotion YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that we're going to be continuing to do webinars, both in Twinmotion as well as Unreal. And actually, our next webinar that's coming up is going to be on April 2nd, and this is going to cover off a lot of the really cool things that Quixel brings to the table. So it'll be in context with Unreal Engine, but a lot of the work that's done inside of Quixel and Quixel Mixer and things like that, you can obviously bring into Twinmotion. So for those of you that are interested in learning more about what Quixel has to offer and the really amazing new functionality that they've added into all of their new 2020 releases, make sure you check out our next set of webinars. So another question that people ask a lot in the chat is, can you import other objects, other trees, furniture, things like that? So maybe Martin, you could kind of expand on that.
Yeah, sure. So while in Twinmotion we have the direct link with multiple CAD software, you can also import your data through like a standard import workflow. So you can import SketchUp, FBX, C4D, OBJ. So we support plenty of different file formats that you can manually import inside Twinmotion. And it's not always like just a big project. It can be just a chair. So you can import just a chair, just a tree, just a ready posed character. And when you have this object inside your model, in the scene organizer on the right panel, you can right-click on it and save it into your user library. So you can create your own library directly inside Twinmotion. And actually, it reminded me that we did like 1 or 2 months ago, maybe more, don't remember. We did a webinar dedicated to the user library and how to import your own asset and save it to your library. So it's worth checking out. It's on the Twinmotion YouTube channel.
Very cool. And it's also worth mentioning that this webinar, links will be sent out. That question does come up quite a bit. We will be sending out links after the webinar with the ability to view this presentation. And you can obviously then share it with colleagues that perhaps couldn't catch the presentation live. So another question about sort of getting data in and out. Talk a bit about how you handle texturing information. Like if you wanted to create your own material, what types of things you can do there?
Yep. So in Twinmotion, you can create your own materials. Basically, inside Twinmotion, you can import diffuse texture, roughness, normal map, metallic map, and glow map. We have we've created a tutorials, an article for that on our Facebook page. I will link the I will add the link to the chat panel. So it's the PBR guide for Twinmotion. So if you want to learn more about that, don't hesitate to check this out.
Very, very cool. So direct links, what comes across? There's always questions about, is it bidirectional? What's the direct link, story, and maybe explain to people who haven't used a direct link what exactly that brings to the table.
Sure. The direct link is a plugin that you install inside your CAD software. So right now we have ArchiCAD, Revit, ReCAD, SketchUp, and the last plugin that we released in 2020 version is the Rhino direct link. So we have more planned in the future, but this is the one we support at the moment. So it's a plugin that you install in your CAD software, and it creates a link with Twinmotion. So basically, you are inside Revit. You click on the synchronize button and send your project. You send the 3D, the data. But we also have created a conversion table that take, for example, the native material that you have inside those CAD software that usually have a low resolution diffuse texture, and we replace them. We replace all those basic material automatically by Twinmotion physically accurate materials. And we do the same thing for the vegetation, for the tree, vegetation, the characters, and the cars. When there is a native library, so for example, in SketchUp, there is no library for the trees and stuff like that. But in ArchiCAD and Revit, there is a native library of vegetation assets. So we replace them automatically. So straight after you hit this synchronize button, your project is inside Twinmotion. It have nice materials, nice foliage that is affected by the weather, the season. It has a nice character that are animated and some car from Twinmotion. So this is the idea of the plugin, simplifying the workflow from bringing the CAD data into a visualization platform.
Sweet.
And as you mentioned, it's a one-way process. So right now we just send the data from the CAD software to Twinmotion. The only thing that you can send back to your CAD data, as I mentioned during the presentation, is that you can, if you added some note inside Twinmotion, you can send back those notes to Revit or to ArchiCAD as a BCF file. You can import back that in your CAD software, but it's the only thing that is going in the other direction.
Excellent. So we have a follow-up question to that. A user was curious about what happens if they bring something in from Revit and they turn some objects off inside of Twinmotion, or they've added some lights or some people, and they refresh their file coming in from Revit. What happens to the things that you've modified inside of Twinmotion?
Sorry. So it will retrieve the same setup that you have inside Revit. So if in Twinmotion you have hidden some objects, once you press the refresh button, it will not sorry for my English. It will show the object that was hidden, except if you created a phasing. And yes, if you have created a phasing and all the state hide and unhide of your object in the scene organizer will be memorized inside your phasing.
Excellent. And if you've added people or cars or other things into your scene when you do the refresh, those still stay as you left them before the refresh.
Yes, of course. Everything that you have created inside Twinmotion won't be lost. You just keep working in Revit in your modeling software, and you just send the update of the geometry, and everything set up inside Twinmotion won't change.
Excellent. So another question someone asked about, they struggle with placing things in the interior of buildings. So they're wondering if there's a way to help facilitate that, like a cut plane view or something like that.
Yep. So it's a bit hidden, but when you look inside Twinmotion viewport on the top right corner, there is an icon. If you click that, you have multiple icons available here. You can change the time, but we are interested in the view icon, which is the small house. And when you click on this icon, you have different view like top, left, right. And this way you can switch to different views. And the icon next to this house icon is a clipping tools that will allow you to clip, to cut through the different floors. So you can just be in the top view, cut all your floors so you can see, cut the ceiling so you can see the floor, and you can precisely place your object like that.
Okay,
But it's not a rendering view. It's really meant to be used like for placing objects.
excellent. That's a great tip. So Matt, this is a question that I saw you in the chat answering in various forms. People asking for an explanation of how the depth of field works. So maybe you could kind of run through and just give an overview of what the new depth of field model is set up like and how to work with it
Sure.
and get good results in Twinmotion 2020.
Yeah, so the depth of field is more physically accurate in Twinmotion 2020. Depth of field relies on three settings. They're going to be your distance, so that's your focus distance to the subject. There's also field of view, which is going to allow you to control not only the field of view, but also the focal length, how close the lens is to the film back. And then the third setting is your aperture. So if you want really good depth of field, if you want like a really shallow depth of field, you want to have a low aperture value, something close to 1. And then for your field of view, you want to keep that low as well. So you bring your field of view down. I think the default is like 90 in Twinmotion 2020. So bring it down lower than that. That's going to create a tighter shot, but it's also going to really pronounce that depth of field setting. And then you can use the autofocus tool that's new in 2020, where with the autofocus tool, you simply point at what you want to focus in on, and it will automatically set the distance for you.
Yeah, and another thing that's going to control that depth of field a bit is how close your focal point is. So if you've got a really close object that's to your camera and you set your focal point on that, it's going to give a much more pronounced depth of field. It's
Yep.
very physically accurate in its approach.
Yep.
So if you play with your real camera, you'll get a sense of how the camera should be behaving inside of Twinmotion 2020.
And you can also control the shapes of the bokehs too. So you can have the bokehs represent how many blades are on the diaphragm of the aperture. So you could have one that has 6 blades. So you could just set it to 6, 8 blades, whatever.
Excellent. So another question that seems to come up a fair bit during the presentation was the hardware. People were impressed with the performance you were getting, Martin. So maybe like we all have similar spec machines, but maybe we can talk about what hardware you ran the demo on, and then also what where to put your money if you were going to build a machine.
Yeah. So here for the demo, I was running on 2080 Ti. So Twinmotion uses mostly your graphic card. So the better you can have with the more VRAM you can have, it the better you will have the best experience with a good GPU. On the CPU, I'm running like a really old i7, so it's quite old, but it do the job. So.
Yeah, and I'm similar. My CPUs are a good 3 years old. They're older Xeons. They have relatively fast frequency for a Xeon, lower core count. And then I'm running an RTX Titan. So again, heavier on the GPU, I think for me. And then I think Matt, you're probably in between the two of us.
On the GPU?
On the CPU, I think you had
Oh,
said you
yeah,
had
I'm an
i7.
i7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best place to invest your money, I think, is in GPU, followed by enough CPU and RAM to make sure that you can load large data sets and things like that. So some people
Yeah,
asked about how you did the road. A couple questions came up about the road. So what was the story with the road and the edge of the road?
yeah. So it was part of my 3D model that I imported inside Twinmotion. It was not created inside Twinmotion, unfortunately. Maybe one day. It was just created in 3ds Max. It's a shape with a texture coming from the Quixel Megascan library, just a raw texture that I apply on my shape, and that's basically it. Just created a nice roughness map to have a bit of humidity on the road, and that's it.
Yeah, so there was a couple of questions in here that came across about trying to get better quality, someone working on a 2080 Ti and better shadow quality in GI. So that's not really specific to the graphics card. It's more going to be set in the settings that you kind of showed toward the end of the webinar, correct, Martin?
Yeah, exactly. The quality manager that I presented at the end is where you can set up the quality of your project. If you don't have a really good graphic card, you can lower the quality to have better performances, better frame rate while navigating inside Twinmotion. But the final output will always be the same. It will always be at ultra quality settings.
Okay, good to know. Lots of questions actually came in about VR. Can we do VR? How do I get to VR? So maybe Matt, you could pop in and kind of tell us what you think about
Yeah.
VR.
Yeah, it's actually quite easy. I mean, right out of the gate in the viewport, if you look at the top right of the viewport of Twinmotion, there's an eyeball. That's the eye menu. When you click on that, there's another eyeball. You can click on the second eyeball, and that's going to take you to the option to go straight to VR from the viewport. So that's like if you want to see it in VR just while you're working on it. But then the way you would go to VR for your client is that the presenter mode has built-in VR as well. And I believe there's like a button on the bottom left. I can't remember exactly where it is, Martin. You probably know better than I do, but that allows you to go to VR from there.
No, it's same as in Twinmotion. It's on the top right corner in
Oh,
presenter
okay.
mode. There is the same I button now, and when you click here, you have the VR mode available.
Right. So it's incredibly easy to go to VR. I know it personally from personal use. It supports HTC Vive. I believe what Rift as well.
Yes.
Oculus Rift. I'm not sure what else, but
Yeah,
maybe you know.
not sure either. Oculus and Vive and all the mixed reality headsets.
Mixed reality headsets. Yeah. Yeah. And it fully supports the motion controls. It has built-in controls so you can teleport around. It also allows you to change materials using those controls of your scene. So you can pick different materials from a list and point at an object and have it have a different material. You can change the time of day. You can change the weather, all kinds of cool stuff.
That's awesome. So a question came up about the presenter and can we run it on iPads, Android, a tablet, kind of lower end processors and graphics based systems, mobile systems. So maybe Martin, you could kind of talk a bit about Twinmotion in general, really.
Yep. So right now, the presenter needs the same resource as Twinmotion. So you still need to have a good graphic card to run the presenter file. But yeah, can just say that we are working on it.
Yeah, so it's basically the presenter is it's a gamified version of the interactive experience. So if you're using all these, kind of high-end effects to create that rich visual fidelity in the interactive package, you're going to need it also for the presenter.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was a couple questions about IES profiles and whether or not they're supported. So lighting profiles.
I think the real question was not whether they're supported, and the answer to that is, of course, they are. But someone was saying that they were having issues making them look right. They were distorted.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that issue myself.
Could be an orientation problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So if in general, if you are running into some issue with Twinmotion, we highly encourage you to contact our support platform and create a ticket. This will help the dev team know that we have some issue and help the dev team finding where they are. So yeah, if you have a problem like here with the DOS file, don't hesitate to contact the support platform on the Twinmotion website, and yeah, just so we are aware of the problem.
Good tip. So always support, send support any problems you have so that they can trace them down. So it's a great tip.
There's another question here about whether or not Quixel assets are okay to use in Twinmotion, because we know it was free for Unreal, but my assumption is yes, since it's basically Unreal in the back. But I don't know. Do you know something different,
Yes.
Daryl or Martin?
Yes. It's also free to use inside Twinmotion, so you can grab any asset on the Quixel Megason website and just place it inside Twinmotion.
Fantastic.
Good stuff. Another question a couple times came in about different custom sky domes or HDRI images for the background. So maybe you could talk about that a bit, Martin.
Yes, so we have a lot of users on the Twinmotion official user group on Facebook.
I just posted the link.
Okay, so perfect. We'll have the link in the chat panel. So right now inside Twinmotion there is no way to customize the background, but you can import basically a sphere and apply a 360 texture on this sphere to change the background. Some people did that, and there is some tips and tricks on the Facebook user group that will show you how to create that. It's best to follow the link Matt sent by on the chat panel. Actually, the link is towards directly our own website, but it's also available on the Facebook user group, so you can find it other places.
So someone's asking how to get a mirror effect or mirror material. Maybe we could talk about reflection captures and things like that too at the same time?
Sorry, can you repeat?
There was a question about how to get a mirror effect or a mirror type material.
Yes, so in Twinmotion, we use the screen space reflection. So basically, what is present in your viewport will be present inside your reflection, and what is behind the camera won't exist. So this is the first thing. And to counter that, we have inside Twinmotion the reflection probe. So basically, you place a probe inside your room. It will capture a 360 image of your room, and you can set up the distance where the probe affect you can set up a distance that is affecting the object inside this distance. So basically, if you place a probe in front of a mirror, you will see the reflection captured by this probe in this specific object.
Very cool. So a couple other hardware questions. Does it support multi-GPU? And no, we're not there yet. In the future, hopefully, there's very low-level support for multi-GPU in Unreal Engine 4.24, but it's super, super low level. And that technology and implementation of that will continue to mature inside of Unreal, and obviously with Twinmotion based on top of Unreal. At some point, I wouldn't be surprised to see it, but there's been no announcement about it that I know of.
Hey, Martin, did I miss something? Someone's saying that vegetation scatter tool does not work on Twinmotion landscapes. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a non-issue.
Gotcha.
The problem is the terrain is too big to use the scatter tool on the terrain itself. So
Okay.
right now it's not supported.
Okay. 3D mouse support. Again, this comes up a bit and on the Unreal side too. And I don't think I've never seen a 3D mouse running in Unreal proper. So I imagine the same as a no for that side of Twinmotion.
Yes, indeed, it's no for now.
Okay.
Here's one I've seen a couple of times: walking speed adjustments to avoid skating on the characters. Do we have that?
Not on the pass, but on the custom pass. If you place a character manually inside the custom pass, like I did during the webinar, you can manually change the speed.
The speed, yeah.
Yeah, but not on
Okay.
the overall pass.
Gotcha.
I just got an update, so sorry for that. Regarding the Quixel Megascan assets, it's yeah. We
The
can't
answer is
use
yes. Yes or
No.
no.
The answer is no. Actually,
Oh,
yeah.
bummer.
I just got an update on that. Right now, we can't use Quixel Megascan asset inside Twinmotion. It's only free to use inside Unreal at the moment.
Oh,
With that
learn
said,
something new every day.
you could still purchase a Megascan and bring it in. So it's
Right. It's just not
technically
free.
possible to use the data, but it's not part of the free UL. So
Yep.
So we have one more minute. Are there any questions that we didn't cover off, Martin, that you feel or that we missed in the list here?
So I saw a couple of comments asking about that, and we already mentioned it in the past, so just wanted to clarify. We are currently working on a bridge between Twinmotion and Unreal. Right now, it's not available, but it will be in the future. So in the future, you will be able to open your Twinmotion file. To open your Twinmotion file and to open your Twinmotion file in Unreal. So basically, you can use Twinmotion as a quick prototyping tool with the built-in library, with all the easy-to-use tools, and then you will be able to open this Twinmotion file in Unreal and adding all the stuff that you can't use inside Twinmotion, like using RTX, importing animated FBX, or stuff like that. So this is something that is planned. We don't communicate on a release date, but yeah, I saw plenty of comments on that, and yeah, it will be one day.
One day. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to sign off here in just a second. But I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to watch the webinar, and thank Matt and Martin. Martin, amazing job on the presentation as always. Annie, thank you so much for help on the logistics of everything, and thank you to all the users who took the time to spend a little bit over an hour with us today. We really appreciate it. Links will be sent out for the webinar to rewatch, and of course, we'll have more Twinmotion webinars coming up in the near future. So make sure you keep an eye out for those. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.